Jesus returns to the disciples. He finds them sleeping. And mind you, we just looked a few weeks ago at Mark chapter 13 as they're going through and they see the temple, and we get this little apocalypse where Jesus is talking about end times and the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD, and he's looking at all that kind of stuff. And they're wanting to know, when's this going to happen? And he says, you know, nobody knows when the end's coming. Only the Father knows that. But he tells them this story of a homeowner. He says in chapter 13, verse 35 and 37, he says, therefore keep watch. Key word for today, watch. Because you do not know when the owner of the house will come back, whether in the evening or at midnight, or when the rooster crows or at dawn. Man, the themes here is just almost like more than a coincidence. If he comes suddenly, do not let him find you sleeping. What are they doing? Okay, everybody wake up. If your neighbor's sleeping, give him a jab or her a jab. What I say to you, I say to everyone, watch. Watch. So he comes back, he returns to the disciples, and one of the fun things about The Chosen in this series, you know, Simon gets called Peter, and all the disciples are trying to figure out, do we call him Simon, do we call him Peter? And it's really quite humorous and kind of a new glimpse at what was going on. But up until this time in the Gospel of Mark, ever since Jesus said, you are Peter, he's addressed Peter as Peter until now. He comes back, he's expecting Peter to be praying and Peter sleeping, and he calls him Simon. Yeah. That's interesting. Are you asleep? No, I'm not asleep, Lord. I'm right here praying. That's what we do. Anybody call you and you don't want them to know that you're still in bed? No, I'm up. Good morning. Yeah. Hello? Yeah. I've got some friends that just crack me up how they never want anybody to know that we caught them sleeping. Could you not watch for 1 hour? So that gives us a little time designation. Jesus has been in agony for an hour in the Garden of Gethsemane on this first time. Then he goes back, prays the same thing. Then he goes back, prays the same thing. So this sounds like it's a 3-hour prayer event for Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. So he says, watch and pray so that you do not fall into temptation. Okay, Peter's just already boasted that, yeah, I can see these guys all leaving and scattering, but I'm not. I will die for you. But I can't stay awake to pray. I can't watch. Fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the body is weak. Man. Isn't that what discipleship's all about? Spending time in the Spirit so that our body conforms to the image of Christ. So that the way in which we often in our human nature doubt and become afraid and feel shamed and dismiss ourselves and leave. Boy, if we could just stay with our spirit. Learning how to allow the Spirit to lead us in our walk. A lot of times I express it this way. If we can follow Jesus from our heart and not let our head get in the way, I think it would be a lot easier. So then it gets repeated again. Once more he went away and prayed the same thing. He again found them sleeping because their eyes were heavy. You ever had heavy eyes? Oh my. It's not good as a counselor, to have heavy eyes when somebody's talking about really serious stuff. I'm feeling so depressed. I'm thinking about killing myself. And oh, what? Yeah. Oh, no. Heavy eyes. Heavy eyes. I understand heavy eyes. Heavy eyes is because of the frailty of our human frame, in the flesh. And at that point, there was nothing to say. The disciples didn't say a word. Returning the third time. Now this is the third time. And I believe as Jesus prayed the same thing, it's not recorded here, but we find in Luke chapter 22, verse 43, we find something very, very significant. Because we are identifying and kind of coming in and empathizing with Jesus in the suffering emotionally that he's doing in the garden. And Luke 22:43 says, an angel from heaven appeared to him and strengthened him. Wow. There was an angel from heaven that came to Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane and strengthened him. And from that point on, game on. Jesus was heading to the cross without, Father, if it be your will, take this cup from me. There was a holy resolve. This is the Lord's plan. This is the way we're going to go. We find that this happens in earlier in chapter 1. Mark 1:13 says that as Jesus was tempted of Satan 40 days, 40 nights in the wilderness, it says, and he was there in the wilderness 40 days, tempted by Satan, and was with wild beasts. And the angels ministered to him. Yeah. I want to encourage you, pay attention. Ask the Lord to teach you. How does he want you to relate to angels? What is it that he wants to show you about them that could be very beneficial in this time that you're now in? So Jesus comes back and he says, are you still sleeping and resting? They failed to realize how crucial this moment was. He says, enough. The hour has come. Luke lets us understand a little bit more about what Jesus is meaning here when he says the hour has come. In Luke 22:53 it says, every day I was with you in the temple courts and you didn't lay a hand on me. He says something very similar to them in Mark. But then, Mark doesn't have this, but Luke does. But this is your hour when darkness reigns. This was the moment where the kingdom of darkness was ruling and reigning. And he tells his disciples, look, the Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Just like I told you. He's told them on several occasions, over and over, that the Son of Man's going to, and he just told them at the Last Supper, one of you is going to betray me. So rise, let us go. Here comes my betrayer. See, the story of the disciples in Gethsemane probably had a powerful impact on the readers that Mark was writing to, most likely in Rome, right as persecution of the church was increasing. Right then they could see how Jesus faced the imminent possibility of death that would help shape them as they went to their martyrdom, to depend upon God, to watch, and to pray. See, the flesh is how the evil one distracts the people of God from the plan that the Lord has. It represents the vulnerability of the human being. The disciples did not understand, and they never again, from that point on, I don't believe they ever underestimated the power and the call to pray and to watch. We find in the book of Acts, disciples are in jail. Word gets out. The church gathers at a house and they're praying earnestly for protection for the apostles that are imprisoned. An angel comes and supernaturally leads them out of jail. So much so that Peter goes to the house and the girl comes to the door and hears Peter's voice and doesn't open the door, assuming that it's Peter's ghost. See, they never lost, I don't think, the edge and the lesson that they learned in the garden. They had no idea how crucial those moments were and how powerful prayer and watching and standing for one another actually can be. So I want to encourage you today. When the Holy Spirit calls you to prayer, He calls you to watch. You've got an event that's coming and it's heavy and it's weighing. Emotionally, the burden is beyond you. Call your closest brothers and sisters. Get prayer. Have them pray for you. Go to prayer and see what the Lord will do. Watch and pray.